Hey, what's going on, you guys? Nicholas Moy here, and in this video, we are going to be talking about one of the things that has been breaking the internet, and that is Claude Code and the leak that happened last week. There's a lot to unpack here, and I just want to start diving into some of it. I'll probably come up with another video in a day or two and talk about some more of this because there is a lot that comes along with this. But we're going to go ahead and dive into what this leak is, what exactly was exposed, what this means for you, and maybe a couple of things that are coming down the pipeline from Anthropic. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Okay, so as we dive into this, I think it's important that we kind of start from the beginning. So I found this article by Zscaler, and I thought that they highlighted a lot of things in here that a lot of other publications and YouTubers are not talking about. I'm not going to dive into everything, but I am going to drop this link inside of my post in my school community and in the description below, so you guys can check this out, take the time to really dig into it. But let's go ahead and kind of start from the beginning, talk about what happened and how we got here and what's going on at this point. So March 31st, 2026, Anthropic accidentally exposed the full source code of Claude Code, its flagship terminal-based AI coding agent, through a 59 megabyte or 60 megabyte JavaScript source map file bundled in with their public NPM package. What does this mean? This means that the source map file that literally outlines all 500,000 lines of code, it literally got bundled in as and shared as public. They forgot to set this thing to ignore, and when they went ahead and pushed this out, a security researcher by the name of Chao Fan Shao, sorry if I butchered your name, otherwise known as Fried Rice, he went ahead and shared this. So Claude Code, this is the post that he put up. Claude Code source code has been leaked via map file in their NPM registry. And we can see that right there. I'll go ahead and open this up right here. Now, what this did is this led to a bunch of people forking the repo, and essentially overnight, half the world had access to this public repository, all the proprietary code that builds the harness of Claude Code. Okay, this isn't Claude. This isn't like the secret stuff going on over there. It's literally just this tool that we're using, this harness tool that we're using to engage with all of the Claude models. All right, this is what is making Claude Code, and Claude Code, you know, is essentially this harness that allows us to leverage different AI models to build inside of VS Code. We can, you know, basically vibe code applications. I'm trying to, you know, simplify this a little bit, but essentially that's what this is doing, right? And what this has done is this allowed a bunch of people to basically copy the initial coding file, the initial code files, overnight, and several different engineers across the world had basically rebuilt this into Python. So essentially this was initially written in JavaScript, and they rebuilt this whole thing into Python, and then they rebuilt it again into Rust. And at a high level, that's what you're going to hear many, many times. And that's what they're talking about here. Thousands of developers and researchers and threat actors actively analyzing, forking, porting into Rust and Python, and then redistributing the same model, the same idea into a different programming language altogether. Okay. Some of these GitHub repositories gained over 84,000 stars and 82,000 forks. Anthropic has issued DCMA acts or DCMA requests or notices. This is the copyright, the copyright cease and desist essentially on the mirrors. But the code is now available across hundreds of different repositories. And essentially the common verbiage of what you're going to be hearing is that if somebody rewrote the entire code into a whole nother language, then they can't really get slapped with DCMA. So that is the gist of this whole thing. Now, what has this done? Well, this opened up a lot. It's opened a lot. It opened a lot about just unpacking what is, you know, Claude Code, how does it work? A bunch of secret hidden features, which I'm going to be diving into here in a second. And the capabilities that we can really leverage from this, but then also some of the security vulnerabilities that come with this too, which I think is all in our best interest to kind of familiarize ourselves with. So Zscaler, they're an IT company. They They have some recommendations on these things, which I will touch on some of this here in a little bit. We're not going to do this right away. Let's kind of dive into this. So components exposed, right? We've got agent orchestration. So LLM API calls, streaming, tool call loops, retry logic, thinking and review modes, multi-agent coordination, right? So that's all for agent orchestration. Permission and execution layer. We've got the hooks, the MCP integrations, environment variable handlings, project load flows, memory and state issues, security-related internal issues, things like telemetry analysis, encryption tools, hidden and restricted features, 44 feature flags, and build and dependency details. So here we've got some more security risks. Let's go ahead and dive into this. So supply chain attacks via malicious forks and mirrors. This is where people are literally using the copy to lure people in and exploits what is on their systems by, these people installing a forked version that is non-validated, saying, hey, this is the official copy, or this is a, very popular copy of the code, download it here. And then people that don't know any better, they download it and then they get exploited once they install it on their workstation. So that's one situation. Another one is through known vulnerabilities, pre-existing known vulnerabilities, through the repositories that were in the initial file, which that opened up a whole nother conversation, which is something I may end up creating another video on. But essentially, the different dependencies that were being made up inside of Claude Code, that got exposed. And so security researchers identified that. This led to different rat tools. So these are remote access control type tools that they do bad things. They allow hackers to do bad things on your computer. So there's just a lot. There's a lot here. Let's go ahead and pivot over to this page, and I'll drop this link down below as well. So what is this? This is a high-level visual and overview of what we all know about the Claude Code leak. And like I said, there's a lot of really cool things about this, right? I mean, we've got these things like unreleased features, like this buddy AI companion, almost like a Neopet or a Tamagotchi or something like that, that comes unique with everyone that installs Claude Code. And then you've got, like some kind of cool features where they're like some, the animal you get, maybe common, maybe uncommon, maybe rare, epic, legendary, shiny, kind of like the Pokemon. So that's a kind of cool feature. They call it an Easter egg here. We've got coordinate mode. This is where Claude becomes a manager. It breaks your task into pieces, assigns each to a separate worker agent running in parallel, then combines their results. So kind of like a high-level agent manager that's managing sub-agents. We see something like this when we talk about OpenClaw, and a lot of people are kind of diving into that. So I'll probably be making some videos on that here in a little bit. But this is kind of cool because it's an orchestration functionality that is a feature that they're, potentially going to be releasing. UDS box. Okay, so what is this? If you have multiple Claude sessions running on your machine, they can send messages to each other like a team chat between your AI agents. Again, helping with collaboration between different agents. Also very cool. Bridge. Run Claude on your local machine, but control it from your phone or your Claude AI and browser permissions. Model changes and tool approvals all sync in real time. Now available through Claude AI web interface. I think we've kind of heard of this. This is like a newer feature that was released pretty recently. That is, obviously being confirmed within the CC leak, the Claude Code leak. Kairos is an interesting one. Okay, so always on mode where Claude remembers everything across sessions. It keeps daily logs of what you talked about and dreams overnight, automatically organizing your memories into useful notes while you sleep. That's pretty crazy. I mean, this kind of makes this AI feel a little bit more human because it's going to continue with this persistent memory and reorganizing the memory and the data that you're talking with as you're talking with the AI model in day 1 and day 2 should have some of that information maybe recategorized, maybe reorganized in a way where it's more efficient. So on day 2, it can just pick up right where you left off and it's very, very effective. So That one's been very, very popular, very, very popular call out. Another one here is daemon mode. This is where Claude sessions are going to be running in the background like system services. List their logs, reattach them, or kill them like Docker PS for your AI agents. That's interesting. A little bit creepy, and I have some thoughts on this. So when we talk about building agents, and I'm making a very big pivot into this world of developing agents just because I feel like it's inevitable. I don't love it, but it's inevitable. And I do think it's pretty fascinating because you can do a lot with it. I've been playing with these different agents. I'm going to be making a lot more material on this very soon. This is pretty interesting stuff, but it does raise some concerns as far as security. Like, what are you really giving these things access to? How do you know that you're doing it the right way? You know, how do you know that these things are not going to come back and bite you in the rear by, you know, misstepping on a misconfiguration file or giving too much access or whatever, right? There's been a lot of people that have had very good success with developing these things out securely. And I've watched everything from security experts talk about this to complete amateurs, non-techies that are doing something really cool with AI agents, and both have a lot of very good things to say about it. And I think there's a path forward where we can do this securely. We can do this with complete safety and complete confidence, but we need to have a very good understanding, and we have to test things out. And as we make mistakes as a community, we have to be open and communicating what's going on so that we can fix these mistakes. And I think it does help when situations like this happen. Even though I hate that it happened, I like Anthropic, but it does help when stuff like this happens because we can all do a lot of research together as a community and make this a more secure experience for everybody. So I want to know your thoughts. Let me know down in the comment section below. Tell me your thoughts on this, but let's go ahead and keep going. Okay. So other unreleased features, right? Ultra Plan. For complex tasks, Claude spins up a separate cloud instance that explores and plans for up to 30 minutes. You review and approve the plan in your browser before it runs. I have questions about this one, okay? Are we talking about a cloud instance that is being hosted and managed by Anthropic, or are we talking about plugging in your own cloud instance through like AWS, Azure, and you're paying for like a whole separate fee? Like, what is that? What does this mean? I think this is really interesting stuff. I haven't really had a lot of time to dig into that specifically, but that sounds like, it sounds to me like it could be like an additional tier of service that you're paying Anthropic, and you're going to get access to a dedicated instance managed by them specifically for this, where it's just like a spin up and spin down kind of thing for 30 minutes, where you get that extra compute power. I don't know. That's just my thought. Auto Dream. Between sessions, Claude reviews what it learns and organizes scattered notes into clean, structured memory files like a student reviewing flashcards overnight. Again, Auto Dream kind of sounds a bit like Kairos a little bit, like this, as it's not being worked, as the Claude models are not working for you actively, they are doing things in the background to kind of reorganize and just prepare for the next day when you wake up and you're getting back to work with them. So really, really interesting stuff. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee here. All right, so next thing that I think is very, very important are the hidden slash commands. So you guys may have seen this already when you're working with Claude Code. You get the thing installed on your terminal, and you have different slash commands where you can, you know, spin up a usage report to figure out how much usage you've already utilized. And then other things as well, right? Configuration, different security, checks, whatever it may be, right? This also gives us a whole list of 26 other slash commands that are not necessarily listed in help. And I haven't tried these out. I'm going to try these out and probably report back and share what I think about it or if what's available. But I thought these were interesting. I mean, we've got visualizes the LLM current context window and use and token usage using ctx/viz. By the way, ask a quick side question without altering main session context. That's interesting. I wonder how that would work, how effectively that would work. Good Claude triggers a hidden Easter egg praise response. Okay, I do like that they're making this fun with the with the Tamagotchi Easter egg up here. this whole, pets or buddy, the AI companion pets, and this good Claude. These are fun things. I like this a lot. Teleport, move your session state to another device. That's interesting. Share, generate, and secure a secure link to share to your terminal session. Okay, we've got all kinds here. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but again, you can take a look at this. All of this is going to be down in the description, but this is interesting. All right, secret CLI flags, undocumented launch flags, such as bear, dump system prompt, daemon worker. Okay, so what do these do? Launch without hooks, plugins, or memory files. That's actually smart. And it says it's available. That's actually smart because this is going to help with context. Not context. This is going to help with utilization, right? This is going to help with the usage of your tokens. A lot of people are dealing with this. This is kind of a hot topic right now. Token usage, especially with what Anthropic recently stated, how they're going to put a hard stop on third-party usage of, people using the Anthropic subscriptions, so your Claude subscriptions, using OpenClaw or something like that. There seems to be quite the uproar past couple of days on this very thing. And that's actually stemmed the whole conversation into just token utilization as a whole. I mean, there's like reports on X of people. I saw one the other day of a mom, homeschool mom, who's been using it. She's dropping like a couple $1,000s a week or something like that on just using Claude. And now she's going to go ahead and start using a local model to help with her planning for different education lessons and what have you. So I started digging into that when I saw that video, and I realized, okay, wait a second. When you are plugging in skills and you're plugging in all these different additional third-party integrations into your Claude environment, and you go ahead and prompt for the first day, a lot of the context that's driving from these third-party integrations can increase your utilization. And that's just one way that we're mishandling our billing when we start with interacting with AI. So it sounds really complex. I'll probably study this a bit more and make a more refined video on this because I think it's really fascinating. And I think if we're just going to all go down this path, we really need to know what we're dealing with and how we're not, like, it's okay to spend the money, but we need to spend the money the right way, right? So like how to not be wasteful with your tokens is essentially what I'm trying to get at. So this is cool because it helps with that. It's launching without hooks or plugins or memory files. It's just going to give you a clean slate. And I think that's a very helpful thing. So secret CLI flags, -- bear, that's good. Okay, anyways, dump system prompt. Print the full hidden system prompt and exit. Okay, cool. Start as a background daemon and subprocess worker. So a lot of this is complex stuff that I don't think a lot of, for power users, I think this is going to be very beneficial, but for the everyday person that's just getting started. Okay, and that's really where I want to take this, is I want to make AI something that we can all leverage and we can do it safely. That's kind of, I think, the direction I want to take this channel. And I'm deviating. I'm definitely going off tangent here, but some of this may not be relevant for you until you've gotten your head around setting up agents and sub-agents and doing vibe coding and building out workflow automations. There's a lot to unpack here, but I think it is very cool that we're seeing some of these things right now because this is where we're all headed as an organization or as a community, right? So I think it's very, very good. All right, let's scroll down here. Build time feature flags. Okay, so 32 feature flags compiled into binary. So we got Kairos, persistent AI assistant that runs continuously across sessions. Let me take a sip here. All right, proactive, sleeping AI agents that can run tasks proactively in the background. And we've just got a whole list here, really cool things. So definitely take a look at this. Now this is interesting. Intercepted transmission. This was as of April 1st. Today is April 6th as I record this. Document contains findings from the analysis of Claude Code's leaked TypeScript source. The full source was discovered in a CLI.js map. So this is what I was alluding to earlier. So based off of JavaScript or TypeScript, where we have that mapping file. The file was shipped to an NPM registry. Okay, so this is really just talking about how we got here. Now, mind you, I am just kind of digging into the weeds with you guys on this whole thing. Virtual pet system codename Buddy with hex encoded species names and persistent memory system called Kairos. So that's that persistent memory. A 30-minute planning mode called UltraPlan that spins up cloud instances. Internal API keys for staging and development environments were found hard-coded in the binary. Interesting. Growth book feature gates under the Tengu namespace control gradual rollout. Safety bypass flags were identified and could disable permission checks entirely. Okay, that was something else that was also talked about. Now, mind you, in a previous video earlier, I had made, we were talking about Mythos, which is a new model that was leaked. Okay, now within like 5 days, we got this leak that happened as well. So that's two massive leaks from one of the supposedly safe AI companies out there. I think they're like the third largest publicly traded company or something like that. So they're supposed to be very, very safety conscious. They had that whole altercation that happened with the United States government. And here we are, you know, dealing with these issues. Now, what does this actually mean as far as this hack, this leak? How did this even come about? This was not a hack. There was no insider threat. There was no person that broke into the system. This was simply Anthropic making a mistake when they made an update to their code. That's it, right? They just, whoops, we forgot to turn off the source map and not publish that. They went ahead and published that, went to bed, and then the whole world found out about it within a couple hours. So that is how we end up getting this whole thing, which I think it's interesting, a little bit funny, but it's very interesting because here we are. You know, I think Anthropic is realizing they have to tighten up on what they're doing as far as development and how they are releasing things and making sure that they truly are protecting all the users that are coming in. And I think that this is a very big lesson for them, right? This is their flagship product. This thing just, you know, it shattered the internet when it got released. You know, the updated version got released in February, and then a month later, they end up exposing themselves. I was going to say they end up getting exploited, but they didn't. They exposed themselves. So interesting. And I'm sure that they are making changes to avoid these types of things from happening in the future. But it's still very, very interesting. All right, secret environment variables. So we've got a couple of those here listed there. I'm not going to dive into all that. API beta headers. Not so fun facts from the leak. Okay. Here we've got, lots of different things. So Capybara encoded character by character to evade filters. The internal model named Capybara is so protected, they encoded it as a string like this to avoid triggering their own leak detector. Wow. Whoops. That's crazy. You would think that if they had encoded it as a string and if that string was persistent, they would have added that into their filters for things to look for, but I guess not. Maybe it was a dynamic string. I don't know. Auto permission named YOLO. This is actually interesting. So a function that decides whether Claude can run tools without asking is literally called and classified as YOLO with risk levels low, medium, and high, using Claude to evaluate its own tool use. Okay, I think this brings up one of the questions that I was talking about earlier, I was alluding to earlier, and I think it's very important that we discuss right now. And I'll actually bring up my other screen here. Let's go to recommendations. Okay, so implement zero trust architecture and prioritize segmenting mission critical application access. Okay, do not download, fork, build, run code from GitHub repo claiming to be the leaked Claude Code. Gotcha, we already talked about that. Educate developers on leaked code. It's not open source, right? So there's some proprietary and dangers. There's some dangers with trying to work with some type of proprietary information. Blah, blah, blah. You get what I'm saying. Avoid running AI agents with local shell tool access. on untrusted code bases, monitor an anomalous telemetry or outbound connections from developer workstations, use official channels and sign code binaries. Okay, all that. So the one that really stood out to me was this one: implement zero trust architecture. And when we talk about YOLO, auto permission systems named YOLO, that kind of brought it back to memory. So what does this mean? When we talk about zero trust architecture, we're talking about making sure that systems and processes and applications, and in this case, agents, have the ability to do what they need to do autonomously, but you have put up the guardrails and safety controls in place so that they can't break boundaries to things that you don't feel comfortable with. This is why people are installing things like OpenClaw on a Mac Mini. Okay, this is the reason why, or this is one of the reasons why, right? That's one of them. It's because you want it on an isolated instance. Can you install something like OpenClaw on your computer? Sure. But the moment you start to open up some of the features and functionalities that make OpenClaw so great, and you're running that on your system where you might have sensitive information or passwords or images of family members that you don't want these LLMs to go out there and start posting, that's where having guardrails and safety controls in place around the system is critical. And I like the idea of YOLO. I think it's cool. But we have to do it in a cool and safe manner and isolating it on an instance. Does that mean you need to go drop $600 on a Mac Mini? Probably not. But if you're going to run this, Claude Code or OpenClaw or Open whatever, right? Whatever type of system you're going to do, it's better to have it on a dedicated, isolated environment. That could mean an old laptop in your closet. That could mean, putting it inside of a Docker container, but making sure that you have, you know what you're doing, that you're not allowing just excessive permissions to everywhere, that you have zero trust, meaning that, hey, I'm going to give you this and you are going to already have disposed, allow list type permissions, but that's it. Like anything outside of that, you have to ask for it, or I have to explicitly grant that to you. You can't just go and do it. Like, we have to be very, very conscious of this. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to end up waking up the next morning with a $5,000 bill from Anthropic because that thing went ahead and just spent all your money, or it could have the autonomy to expose something by accident. Now, Claude Code isn't really known for being malicious. I'm not saying, Claude Code is not even the AI, it's the harness, right? It's working with an AI model. It could be Opus, it could be Gemma, it could be whatever. You can swap it out. But going back to the main point here, wherever we're building these applications, whatever the infrastructure is going to be sitting on, whether it's a VPS, virtual private server that we paid for on a monthly basis, or it's a Mac Mini, or it's an old dusty old ThinkPad that you pulled out of your closet, whatever the situation is, you have to make sure that it's protected, that it's isolated, and that you know what you are granting access to. And if you don't know, you need to take some time to learn. This is why I created my community, is because as I'm learning this, I'm going to be sharing this with you, going about this from a fun and productive way, but making sure that we're doing it securely. Because I think that is the most critical thing, is making sure that we are doing our developments with agents securely. There's not a lot of information that is hard pressed in saying, hey, this is the step-by-step thing. And it doesn't help that AI is evolving on a week-by-week basis. Right? The tools evolve, the new plugins evolve, and it's exciting. It's really cool. And I think we need to stay on top of it. But if we don't have good guardrails and safety controls in place, then it stays really difficult. And it's going to be easy for everyone to fall behind if you're not staying on top of it. So that being said, hit subscribe, because I'm going to be pumping out a lot of material around this stuff. And in the community, I'm going to have everything in there as well, so you guys can take advantage of that and just kind of learn some of the things that I'm learning as a security professional, as a security engineer that works with software. How do we build these AI agents securely? That's the main goal. right? How can we do it for everybody? There's all these different types of features. I'm not going to go through this whole list because it is massive. It is so massive. And then here, talking about what Zscaler was saying, hey, don't download unauthorized, hey, we are a leaked Claude Code file. Then you've got a GitHub repo with every single one of them. Look, I think you have to use your own common sense here, right? Claude Code is a great tool. You know what? Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. So that's crazy stuff. And a lot of this is evolving as we go. Like I said, there was a recent, exploits that was discovered as a byproduct of this whole leak. I'm going to probably make a whole nother video on this one. Doesn't necessarily pertain to just AI and what we're talking about here, but it does pertain to dependencies that AI will probably be likely to incorporate. And I think we have to be aware of these things, because this is where we're taking a person that is not technical, that is playing with fire, and if they don't know how to control the fire, they can get burned. And that's what I don't want to happen to you, right? So anyways, there is so much to unpack here. I think that this is a really interesting time to be alive. You and I are on the front row seats of this whole thing, and we're watching this car drive. And boy, you just have to strap in and really know what you're doing. You really have to learn and educate yourself. I've spent a couple of days this whole weekend, I've just been watching tons of videos and reading articles and talking with my AIs, my Claude and my ChatGPT and Grok, and trying to understand, how do we put all the pieces together, right? Where is this all going, and what is the impact of all of this stuff to our day-to-day lives? If you want to go into vibe coding and you have an idea for a business, by all means, I think you should do it 100%. But learn how to do this safely. And that's why I want to make this channel, is to bring my security engineering background. I'm a cybersecurity professional. How do you incorporate that with what is happening today with AI development? So anyways, stay tuned for more information. Stay tuned for more videos. I'm going to be posting more. I want to see your comments down below in the comment section. Be sure to leave a like. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next video.